Hi there, so in this tutorial we're going to focus on creating the grass assets, as you can see here. I've had a bit of a tidy up and a move around. Obviously you should have just completed these tiles here, which would have given you the outside corners, the open corners for the lava. I've still yet to do these for the water, but I shall do those after the grass. The grass will be the final one, and I may make a couple more, just showing some smaller rocks and features that can be used to sort of put into the scene on top of these sort of background assets. So in this next tutorial, what we're going to do is go File, New, and we're going to create a 64 by 64 pixel document, and we're just going to delete, get rid of the background, enter, delete, hide it, and create a new layer. We're going to go to Edit, and we're going to go to Fill, and we're just going to go for colour, which is that, but we want to say green, so go around and just pick a green like this, like a sort of navy green. Just go Edit, Fill, foreground colour, OK. Then once we're here, we are going to play about with some alternative brushes. So select the pencil tool, and I want you to go down and select the assorted brushes, click append. In this instance I'm not going to, as I already have them loaded, and it should give you this menu set here, but just underneath your round brushes. And I want you to pick this zigzag type brush, which should give you this. Okay, now in the brushes options, what I want you to do is turn on your colour dynamics. I want you to put the hue jitter to 5%, the saturation jitter to 15%, the brightness jitter to 15%, and the purity to plus 15%. Okay, so I'll just leave it up there for a second for you to type in. And once you've done that, I want you to make the brush smaller. So select the scene, make the brush as small as possible. You can push the smaller arrow bracket key for that, and end up with this little bar. Okay, what I'd like you to do is simply just paint through. Okay, now this isn't really going to have much bearing on the final image, but in case you want to get this sort of textury grass or background out, I thought it'd be cool to show you. So if this is the sort of thing you want to go for, then by all means do so. Obviously you can lower those percentages to have less variation, and I think it's a kind of cool way of sort of plotting out a patch. Okay, and then obviously if you zoom out, you end up with this sort of really cool looking texture. Obviously you can offset that and tile it and do as you please, but it really sort of helps us, it will really help you just create some variation. So that's one option. Now I'm going to use this as a basis to sort of guide where I put my next set of drawings. So create a new layer. What we're going to do is we're going to fill this layer again with the foreground colour. Okay, and just going to hide it for now, and we'll use this as a way of checking where we are. Okay, so what we're going to do is go to the brush tool, and I want you to pencil tool, and I want you to go back down and select our usual brush, which is just a number 1. And what we're going to do is select a slightly darker green, and what I'd like you to do is to start just painting like some little stems coming up like this. Okay, it doesn't really matter if they're perfect or not, so we're going to keep working back into these. Okay, so the way I'll sort of do it is like a little point and start just putting them up. Obviously we don't have to keep to an exactly straight line, we can vary that, which means that we end up with a bit of variation in our sort of scene. So our grass doesn't look too static. and I just realised we're doing that on the wrong layer, but that's okay, we can delete those. So what we're going to do is just pull this all up, and again just keep going with that. As long as you can make the base thicker, we'll always be able to have that to go back to. So it's really important that we do. Now we're not going to tile the grass, but we will have a centerpiece that we will use just to tile. We won't need to actually offset it this time. It should work just fine on its own, but what we will need to do is make sure that the edges are completely open. We don't want to have them with any colour underneath, so we are going to have to delete this green that we've just added. So just select the majority of the areas, one or two, which with the smaller pieces doesn't really matter, just as long as we sort of got the bulk of that green selected, it will all be fine. So we'll just get our eraser tool, we'll make it bigger by pushing the square bracket above the next to the enter key, and we'll just erase that away nice and quickly. Push Ctrl D for deselect, and now we will create another layer, place this underneath and go edit, fill, and we'll select one of these smaller colours that we've left, and that we have it. There we go. So what we need to do now is go back, and what we're going to do is select this colour, and no, sorry, this colour, and what we're going to do is select a lighter green. Okay, and now at the top of these stems we're just going to sort of follow on from what we had before. Okay, actually build up. Okay, so try, you can go down to the root in some places and just sort of keep that consistency going. Okay, I mean, when we get down here and we have some variation, it's going to be a lot easier where the line isn't so certain, which is great, which is what we want, because we want it to look like it's a dense, randomly natural grown sort of vegetation. We just keep putting those colours in, should be fine. Okay, and if we sort of zoom out a little bit, we'll start to see that coming along. Now what we want to do again is get our colour picker, and we want to go somewhere in between this time. We just sort of want to start building in between, okay, these areas. Just want to be careful not to take away too much of the dark stems, because obviously they leave the impression that there is a base, but this is that base is really far down into the ground, hence why it's dark. And we'll just sort of paint those there. Let's get them in. I mean, don't get overly precious with this again. Just as long as we have that blend of colours, our eyes will perform an illusion. It will form an illusion for us, and although it won't directly look like grass, it will feel like grass. Okay, as you can see, as we start to pull away, it starts to look like grass. Okay, now what we're going to do is just select this colour again. We're just going to pick a little darker sort of green there. Then we're just going to, in a couple of areas, just going to sort of dab this down, especially where we can see that shadow from before, the first one we drew, where you can see that just adds a couple of these. It just adds to that little bit of extra depth that we're after. Okay, you can just dab that on. As I say, graphics tablet really does speed up your workflow. So if you don't have one yet, you know, and you are serious about developing your artwork, then please do so. It makes a massive difference. Okay. Again, we just got that little bit of extra depth, which is great. So now what we want to do is hide this layer, but we do want to take that colour first before we hide it. And we're just going to create another layer under that. And what we're going to do, create a bigger brush, and we are literally just going to paint in. Now be careful not to go right to the edge, because what we actually want is when these overlap onto another surface, we want to see some of those colours blend in, and from the side. We don't want it to be perfect. Okay, so you know, just leave a little bit of that exposed and it will help us make it look more authentic. So there we go. Now what all we need to do is to cut it up. So what I recommend we do first is create some guides, so we know where we're going to go 32 by 16, create a new layer, put it at the very top. Basically it should give us this. But what we're going to do, sorry, is start 16 by 16. We'll place that into the corner, we'll go edit, we'll go fill, and we'll put background colour, cancel, no, won't fit it, we'll go edit, we'll go stroke, edit, stroke, and we'll just make it into an obvious colour, and we'll make sure it's on the inside. Okay, and then at least we know now that's where we want to put our 16, so we can hide that. And we can go Control Shift C, go to our sprite sheet, push Control V, and there you've got your bottom corner. Then what we'll do, we'll go in and push Control Shift C on the other corner, bring that in. You've got your top right, and as you can see here, if we are to place it over different things now, we will see them coming through, which is exactly what we want. And obviously rename these as you go through. Got a top right, and have your bottom right, for example. Okay, so it's kind of cool. But what I'm going to copy them all through. What I'm going to do, so that's if you want a green. What I'm going to do is change the colour of these. I want to, as I've already got a green one in my scene to match this, I want equally a purple one to match this. So what I'm going to do, if you want a quick way of changing the colour again, let's go to normal, create a new layer, keep that one visible, select the whole scene, go to, in fact actually what we'll do is go to, if we push Shift, because we don't want to paint the background, so if you push Shift, Control Shift, sorry no, Control D, deselect everything, then go Control Shift, it'll select those, and then obviously Control Shift, and it'll select that grass underneath. Okay, so now we have all of it selected, and when we're on this layer, our new one, we want to go to Edit, and we want to fill that in with a purple. I get something like that, and I'm going to go to colour. Okay, now that's far too bright for me, so I'm going to go to edit and fill again. This time I'm going to go much darker. Okay, and I wonder if overlay might work now. Okay, so I'm just going to flick through. That's hard light might. Let's have a look. Yeah, go to hard light and actually change the colour back to the previous one. So go to edit, fill, colour, and actually bring it back up. Yeah, no, it's still not working, is it? So let's go down to colour, and we'll go edit, fill, and we're just gonna take it right down. Okay, it still hasn't done it. Not as quickly, not as good as I hoped anyway. I really wanted it to be quite dark and grimy to fit the others, so multiply. Again, that's just taken away to that colour. So if we're going to create a new layer, and we'll go edit, and we're going to fill this in with black, and then we'll go overlay, going really warm. At this time we're going to turn those pixels down to around here. There we go. Okay, now I'm happy. I think let's take a look at the sort of those with that. I think that could be a little bit warmer, a little bit darker. I think around there, 50-60%. Okay, so again, this time what I'm going to do is fix size. Just going to turn this on again. Well, with this one we're okay, but what this will allow us to do is actually create a new layer. And if we do this at 32 height and place this just above here, go edit, stroke, inside, we'll know exactly where to place our selector when we need to take this half. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So Control Shift, obviously hide those once you've done it, Control Shift C and Control V, that means I've got my half piece, and again I'm going to just bring these up, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this across. That will allow me to get this side exactly where I need to get it. We'll just hide that, Control Shift C, Control V. And again we're going to go to this one, we're going to change it, keep that on, we're going to go 32 by 32. And we're going to go from here, Control Shift C. So that was my previous version, this one here. As you can see, the purple is slightly off. It's not too bad with that. So you know, I may need to update that further with a blue or something like that later on, which shouldn't be a problem. Again, we can just include these down there, and then we just need to get the top pieces, which will be 32 across, but 16 in height. Which will then, okay, it would appear that I may have taken these not high enough here, look at that. Okay, so Control D, let's bring that up. So again, we'll just have to retake those. I can do that later. So again, copy them over, line them up. You get the idea of what I'm trying to do now. So get them copied, bring them in. I think I'm going to play back with this colour a little bit more. I'm then going to go and continue with the water and get these corner pieces done for these bits here. And in the final tutorial I will be making just some small rocks and some, maybe like a small brush or something like that, just to accommodate these extra pieces. Okay, so go ahead and I will see